Okay, this is a little tutorial. What we're going to do is we're going to take some contours um, like you would receive from a surveyor, and we're going to turn that into a mesh topography, and then we're going to carve a bit of a pathway, bit of a ramp through it. Um, I've also added a little bit of an edge to this, which sometimes you don't need. In this case, if we use the terrain command, it would sort of have a bit of a gap here, so I've kind of done a bit of a manual trace. What we'll do is we'll select both the edge and these contours. We'll go to the create panel, geometry, and instead of a standard primitive, we'll use the the compound objects, and hit the one here, which is terrain. And what that's done is it's made a surface using a Delaunay triangulation, I think they call it. And you have options in here. You can do a graded solid. You can do a layered solid. So if you want it to look a bit like a sort of physical model, you can. We'll keep it as a graded solid. There are some other options you can use. If you've got a big site, you can simplify the model using less lines. I think we'll probably just leave it at no simplification. The other thing you can do in the terrain command is to use this guy, color by elevation, create defaults, and what that does is it sort of sticks a color on to the surface depending on how high it is. I want to kind of actually, I think you select these and you just delete them. Delete zone. There we go. Now we're back to where we were. Okay, so that's now got a surface for us to work with. Now we need our path, and I've done one here, which is you can see here, and I'm just flicking the shortcuts. You can actually do it through here for hidden wireframe, realistic shaded, or you can use your function keys F3 and 4, I think they are. So what we'll do now is we'll select our path. So this is, and I've just drawn it in plan. It's just a bit of a ramp that works its way up. Worth noting though, if I go into the sub-object in modify, that there's little landings, and in terms of, if you're drawing them in AutoCAD or Rhino or in Max, you click, 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 so you get a bit of a bend point here. So this landing can all be flat when we move it up, which I'll do now. So what I can do is go into the sub-object, and actually what I'll do is I'll move the whole thing up in the Z, and that way hopefully we can see what we're doing. And I'll just do this very roughly, just so it kind of looks about right. Yeah, move that guy down to somewhere around there. And you can actually move it around as you do this. And I guess you would, well, I like to get it in a sort of roundabout right position, just by eye, and then get in there and sort of work it out a bit more closely and adjust to get the sort of level of accuracy that I'm after. Okay, so now I've got a spline, a ramp that sort of works its way down. You can see it's sort of cutting in probably a bit low through here where it's steep, but that's okay. We'll just see how it goes. Now what we want to do is we'll call this the driver path, and what we want to do is make a clone of that, and we're going to do let's do it as a bevel, and we'll make a clone. So clone, and in here you get options, and we might go through this in a bit more detail in the with the whole group, but we'll choose reference, and we'll call this the upper cut, the uppercut, and then we'll apply the bevel modifier like so, and we'll just pan up. What we want to do is we'll go up maybe 1 meter, 1.5 or something like that. Yep. Okay, and we could go sort of flange it out a little bit. Let's just do it a little bit for now, see how that goes. And then what we'll do is we'll go back, we'll select that driver path, or driver spline. We'll make another clone, which is under edit, clone, reference, and we'll call this, what was it, uppercut path, uppercut, lower, and this will be a sort of fill version of the same thing basically, and then we'll bevel that guy, and instead of going up we'll go down, negative, and I'll just hide everything momentarily so you can see that one's beveling down. So we've got one going up, one going down. Then what we'll do is, what we want to do is sort of cut the top one out and kind of add the bottom one. So we'll select this guy, it's a terrain, we want to go back to the create panel whilst it's selected and go to compound objects, and we want to use, there's two options for booleans. We're doing multiple booleans, so we'll use the pro boolean option, and we want to do, let's do the subtraction first. So this guy, pick, and pick the top, the top object. Okay, so that's then carved out. You can see it's sort of made a cut into this terrain. Then what we'll do is we'll do the add part, which we'll use union, and we'll pick this guy. Okay, so now we have a path that's been cut in and kind of added. So where it's the path sort of too high, it sits up above. Where it's too low, it cuts into the hill. There's a couple of things that we can do. I might just hide this. There's a few floating splines, but what we can do is, because we use the reference command, the reference clone rather, we can make adjustments to the path, and if we're lucky it won't crash, and it'll update the topography. So say we wanted to, let's go in here, let's go into a top view. So I wanted to move this around a little bit. I can drag that and I'll shade that view for you, be able to see it a bit better. And you can see that the Boolean's updating in, well, depending on how crummy your laptop is, in pretty close to real time. So you could select these guys and you could move them up, depending on how sort of severe you want your cut and fill to be. Like so. And I guess the good thing is we can then get in at a more sort of fine grain level with your transform type in. So to get to that, hold your mouse over the move command, right click, and then you can sort of start looking at real RL. So that's this guy, so you can move all of this landing down, offset at -0.2 or -0.3, and have quite a bit of control. I can go back up 0.5, and because it's sort of procedural modeling, you can work your way back through the stack and it all updates nicely. And the other thing you can do is if you select your Boolean object, let's close that guy. If you did want to adjust the angle of that bevel, and it's always a good idea to save before you do this, but you can, sometimes you make geometry that's too complicated and it just crashes. Go into what's called the sub-object in the operands and pick one of these guys, and you can go back through the stack, and there's our bevel. So we could adjust the let's adjust the outline to 0.5, or let's make it 1, and you can see that it starts to, when the geometry creates where there's sort of intersecting geometry, it freaks out. Let's go 0.7, see how that goes. Maybe 0.5 was about as sort of good as it could get. And we'll do the other one as well, the fill. Let's flare that out a little bit. Yeah. Okay. And I think in the render, some of those gnarly looking kind of polygons will sort of fix themselves up. Yep. Okay.